Okay.
By the way, IT Flatto, his real name is Isaac T. Flatto.
It sounds like
fake. Yeah.
Like some kind of fake gimmick name that they put in charge of a wrestling school in the territories in the 70s. But anyway, all right. I said we were going to maybe rewrite some history here. And I got to find where's all of my notes? Because there are letters from IT Flatto, copies of the letters that Pfeffer's lawyer sent to various people, including the Athletic Commission and the producer of the television mobile unit for the National Broadcasting Company in New York. And I did a little looking up in other places also. And by the way, kids, don't trust Wikipedia for everything. There's a few factual miserrors on there. But remember, Brian, we talked several weeks ago about the history of television wrestling and how early it started. And oh gosh, what's our fine friend's name over in the United Kingdom that does the incredible research? And
oh shit,
because I'm old now, and his name's Adam, isn't it? Or is it? Goddamn, you know who you are, pal. We love you. But he had narrowed it down to in England. They did something in the late 30s in the experimental phase. But there's a lot of we've been talking about over the past few weeks. And last week's program, especially, there was regular wrestling on television every night of the week from the local buildings in the New York area between 1947 and 1950 on every station that was practically on the air, right? And when we talked about our friend across the pond's research, the first television studio wrestling show had been on the WRBG Schenectady station that was an offshoot of the RCA Experimental Laboratories. Remember? That was 1942.
Yeah.
Now, that's why Wikipedia has the first, this is what they say, the first successful recurring wrestling program was Hollywood Wrestling on KTLA in 1947. But that's not true because we know that at the same time period, New York had the nightly shows and Chicago had wrestling on WBKB, which turned into WBBM, I believe is Channel 2 today. Hi, everybody in Chicagoland. They had that show in the summer of 1946. The Dumont Network debut of Wrestling from Chicago was July of 1948. So there's a lot of firsts involved there that have been known before and have been quoted in various places. But I got something here that I think somebody ought to look into further. Because this is a letter from IT Flatto to Mr. Burke Crotty. I swear to God, these names. Producer of the television mobile unit, National Broadcasting Company Incorporated, RCA Building, Radio City, New York, New York. And this is dated February 20th, 1940, right? Dear Mr. Crotty, after we discussed the subject of television at the meeting of the State Athletic Commission today, and after the meeting, I also discussed the same with Mr. Bill Johnston, promoter at the Garden, Johnston family, and Mr. Jack Pfeffer. Mr. Bill Johnston is ready to accept $100 for every boxing show televised during the next 3 months and or to the end of the indoor boxing season at this club. So now they're talking about one of the small clubs. They're not talking about the Garden itself. They're talking about one of the small clubs in the area. And I believe we will get that out of another letter. But nevertheless, Mr. Pfeffer is ready to accept the sum of $50 for every wrestling show televised during the same period. This is the minimum amount which either will accept, and I have no objection to your discussing the matter with either of them. and entering into any different contract which you're able to make with them. Now that we have the approval of the commission for the balance of the indoor season, they insist that the new contract become effective at once. I do not know whether you intend to televise on Thursday and Saturday of this week. And if you do, I suggest that you get in touch with the above mentioned people at once and agree with them on the amount to be paid. I've done everything possible to bring the commission to an understanding of television, and after many months of hard work, have got them to understand the situation my way. It is now up to the National Broadcasting Company to do the rest. And if you need my help, you may the same to the fullest. Keep in mind Thursday's a holiday. Work quickly. Sincerely yours. This is February 1940, and this has already been taking place. And Pfeffer had written a note at the top, apparently to Flatto, talk to Crotty like a businessman, not a wrestler. But if this is and here there's some other stuff, but are you salivating so far over what the fuck was going on here?
No, this is fascinating, and I just looked some stuff up online just trying to find more information. They're apparently free to download from worldradiohistory.com, the NBC transmitter, the employee magazine for NBC from 35 to 45. So it may be a good idea to pound through those and just see what possibly could be mentioned. I mean, but again, I'm getting ahead of things. You're kind of just hitting us with something brand new.
Well, hold on. Do they have television or just radio listings?
I think it's, I don't even know if it's listings. It's a in-house NBC magazine dealing with all the different affiliates.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
I'll send you this link.
Okay. Well, that was February 20. The very next day, February 21, 1940, he writes to the Honorable John J. Phelan, chairman of the New York State Athletic Commission, 155 Worth Street, New York City. My dear General, after the National Broadcasting Company informally agreed to pay for the televising of boxing and wrestling shows at this club, its representatives obtained the erroneous impression from your commission yesterday that they could continue to broadcast free of cost for a period of 3 months. I know that the free days are over and informed them they must pay $50 for wrestling and $100 for boxing or they are out in the cold. So far, they have accepted wrestling dates February 22, 1940 and February 29, 1940 at the above rate. If they don't pay as above set forth, television will be discontinued at this club. Sincerely, I.T. Flatto.
Discontinued. Now, again, that means it's been continued for a while.
Yes, and they've already agreed to the date of the day after he's writing this letter and the following week, whatever the 22nd, 29th were, whatever night of the week that was. And the wrestling and boxing, and we're going to get into another letter here that may explain some of this, but $50 for wrestling from 1940, we've established that would probably be about $1,200 for broadcast rights. And double for boxing because they were on a different pay schedule. But now here's the thing. I know a lot of people are saying, wait a minute, televising to who, for what, how, what's going on here? Okay. Apparently television in New York, and folks, they've written books about this. So it's not like I don't want to bore you, but try to give you a grip. The Schenectady RCA experimental studios from like 1928, it kind of became the WRBG in Schenectady. And there was another offshoot of that became WNBT in New York and is now WNBC. And Brian, since you've lived there, they crow a lot that we're the oldest continuously broadcasting television station in the country?
I don't think they do. Yeah, I don't think they do. That's NBC here in New York, Channel 4.
Well, WNBT was actually on the air irregularly every once in a while, whatever the fuck, in 1936 for like 100 high-level RCA executives that had sets in their house and They had a boardroom where had TVs people could watch when they had meetings to show them what it looked like, right? The actual television itself. And regular commercial service was apparently scheduled for the 1939 World's Fair. And then they were broadcasting to several hundred, because that's where at the World's Fair, they were trying to get people, hey, buy this new thing called television. But they actually became commercially licensed stations the same day WNBT in New York and WCBW, that became the WCBS station in Chicago. In July 1941, they were supposed to go on the air at the exact same time, but the New York station fucked them on the deal and went on the air an hour ahead of time. So they were still broadcasting to nobody. And the war, fucked things up further, and TV sets cost, what did we say when we did that piece a while back? Like $20,000 for the average person if they wanted to have it in today's money. But they were working out how to do it and figuring shit out and actually broadcasting a signal to almost nobody. But part of it was wrestling was there from the start. And then in April 1940, and I need to read this whole goddamn thing, but he wrote the Honorable D. Walker Ware at the Hotel Mayflower, 61st Street in Central Park West, New York City. This is from Flatto. My dear Commissioner, I received your letter of the 5th, and I have noted contents. Perhaps the National Broadcasting Company did not comply with your request because they received pretty rough treatment between your commission and this office. At a great expense, both to the National Broadcasting Company and this office, television was installed in my club along experimental lines.
Huh?
Your commission was opposed to television, and General Phelan insisted for 4 months on my receiving $400 a night, just as if he had anything to do with it at all. And finally, when the showdown came before the commission on February 20, the commission was ready to give away my building for nothing to the National Broadcasting Company for a period of 4 months. As the experimental stage had ended, and I'm solely in business to make money, I informed the National Broadcasting Company that unless they paid for every wrestling and boxing show, that they could not continue at Ridgewood Grove. There it is. For any time in the future. Where did you say that was, Brian? Was that Queens?
That's Queens, and I have the results here.
The results of...
You said it was February 22nd, 1940?
You found that already?
Yeah, I found it already. There's a website, New York NYProWrestling.com. And you said it was the 22nd. What was the other date?
The 29th, 7 days later.
Oh, yeah, so that would have been... Oh, no, 29th... Again, that may not be listed here. The 29th is White Plains, New York, but that could be just another town on the circuit. The 22nd, Michelle Leone defeated Felix Slovikowski. Angelo Martinelli defeated Jack Brown. Dave Levin drew with Ray Schwartz. Maurice Boyer drew with Patrick Kavanaugh. Zim Zam Zum defeated Juan Olaquivel, and Frederick von Schatt went to, it just says a time here, maybe a draw, with Benny Rosen.
And that was apparently televised. And
he said installed it in my club. Is that the way he phrased it?
Well, yeah, hold on here. At a great expense to both NBC and this office, television was installed in my club along experimental lines. Now, I see, again, nobody knew how to fucking talk about this stuff then. So did it mean that was installed, they brought it in and, left it there, or they just brought the remote equipment in or whatever?
Did they wire the building? Right.
Did they wire the building? But he says as the experimental stage had ended and the period was at 4 months that they were trying to renew for, but that would have put them into late 1939, possibly, if they had started that far. But nevertheless, I informed the NBC that unless they paid for every wrestling and boxing show, they could not continue at Ridgewood Grove for any time in the future. They paid for 2 wrestling shows. So that would have been February 22nd and maybe 29th or whatever. And I thereupon refused to have them continue further unless they paid the amount which I desired and which I informed the commission was a reasonable charge. That was $50, right? For the moment, I have abandoned television, although my building is the only one in the United States now ready to televise boxing and wrestling shows. So he's apparently got the whatever facilities they needed at the time to do that.
So it sounds like you've uncovered the first regular TV, maybe the first TV wrestling show in the United States, actually. Right?
It sounds that way because and they're talking about the experimental nature and that, okay, we took a fling on this, but now I need, about $50 or whatever. And that would have ended in late February 1940. So would they have gone on the air as early as late 1939 for an experimental period? I mean, again.
And again, no advertising. Obviously, naturally, there was no commercial advertising on any of these programs.
Well, no, because nobody could really see it. So you would be wasting money telling people, hey, here's what you can't see tonight that's going on. And that's another thing, is that they weren't even worried about it harming the gate at that point. It was just like, if you're going to fucking, annoy me with this, give me $50. Or the boxing people, give us $100. Because they didn't do anything for nothing. They were willing to take the fling because they thought that somebody would, NBC, they're thinking the big radio company, but they got money. Even if television is fucking nothing. So, and then the rest of this letter is about a guy that got suspended, blah, blah, blah. But then he closes, I'm on very friendly terms with the National Broadcasting Company, and any night you want tickets to investigate the situation of television, I'll be glad to be of service to you. And this was April 6, 1940, as I said.
I'm very friendly with these people that are refusing to give me $50. So if you need me to make any introductions, let me know. Wow. I said it last time, there's a deep dive somewhere just about the history of wrestling TV in New York from, I would have said the late 40s, but now we can go well before then. From 1940 to let's say 56. Just what actually was airing, what was actually being aired live, what was being aired from the studio on the West Side that later became the Sony Studios. There's a whole lot of stuff we still don't have clarity on.
And remember, we did the segment on St. Louis television. I think they did some kind of experimental deal, and Longson was the first wrestler, Wild Bill Longson, on TV in St. Louis, right. And it was like 1946, I believe.
Yeah.
But this, it predates everything. And again, they weren't doing television to make money, and it wasn't hurting their gate because except for people seeing a bunch of those big cameras there, it didn't exist in people's minds. So they were going along with something and
yeah, and there weren't handhelds
television
either.
people.
You didn't have any handhelds.
No,
so it was just giant cameras. Yeah.
It was as big as a refrigerator in those days, sitting up in the fucking cheap seats, looking down at the ring. And, it was a non-entity, but the television networks were trying to figure out what they could televise and what might be popular in a way that they could present it well. Because, as we've said, in those days, between the size of the screens and the cameras, basketball, football, baseball, it would be, visual gibberish. You couldn't see it. You couldn't follow it. But wrestling and boxing was right there. But nevertheless, we will try to delve into a little bit of this news and see what else we can find out. But apparently there was a television program for a period of weeks, at least, on television that nobody could see between 1939 and early 1940. in the New York area.
Yeah, now you got me wondering how many buildings, if any, were actually hardwired as opposed to. I mean, well, he was writing a letter to the Mobile Operations Group, I think you said.
Yes. And see, that's the thing, is that was probably at that point be the only
Yeah.
mobile operations unit anywhere
In the world, yeah.
in the world. Yeah, well, at least in the country. Let's not get too grandiose.
Yeah, the guys
there.
at Movie Tone News are like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah.
This truck.
But that's the thing, is that was they probably had just figured out a way to name that thing. Oh, they take shit out of our building and shoot it elsewhere. We'll call it mobile.
So you know what it just made me think of it, thinking about some of the people who would have big broadcasting careers either locally or nationwide who began as wrestling commentators because wrestling aired and we need a commentator. Russ Davis, go do it.
Yeah.
Who was the first wrestling commentator, including radio? That's one of those ones we don't know, right?
No, I don't. And it would not even be clear with this that we're talking about that they even did commentary or had an announcer.
No guarantees.
There's no guarantees of that. And
that may be the reason there is an announcer. People saw that footage.
Yeah, I mean, they might have said, well, yeah, we need somebody to tell them what the fuck's happening. But Lance Russell had done wrestling on radio, but it was not this early. He would have still only been a mere pup of like fucking 15 or 16 in 1940. And then I don't know that they had ever had regularly scheduled wrestling broadcasts on radio, but we know big matches were called or aired or somehow done. So, but yeah, so that would be if they had a goddamn basement that was discovered in Schenectady or whatever, where if they had did they even do kinescope that early? But some method of recording the experimental broadcast they did in the late 30s and early 40s, that would be cool as shit. But I have a feeling we'll be waiting for a while.
You never know.
But Brian, they were trying to figure out new businesses. They were trying to figure out new businesses.
That's right. It was a brand new business, producing television shows, selling advertising for television, selling televisions, all brand new.
It was a dream. It was a dream of General David Sarnoff and the people who made the cathode ray tubes and all those type of things. And they didn't dream of being astronauts, or they didn't dream of being the princess at a castle somewhere. They dreamed of being television broadcasters. And it took them years and years of hard work and slogging. Can you imagine, Brian, how easy it would have been at the dawn of television if they'd have had Shopify? Can you imagine?
It would have been less slogging, more of that.
Well, that's right. It would have been definitely less slogging and more cashing. More sending cash to the bank, because if there had been Shopify, Brian, at the dawn of TV in 1940, then the WNBC wouldn't have had anything to worry about. They could have just said, hey, Shopify, build us a beautiful website. Hey, Shopify, enhance all of our product images and put it on the internet. Hey, Shopify, write the product descriptions, generate discount codes. Give us some easy to run email and social media campaigns. Email everybody in the United States in 1940 and tell them that we're on the air. And then use your customer support when people call and say, we don't know how to work this shit. You call television. And Shopify, ka-ching, they could have had everybody ready to make money in like 3 months. That's because they're efficient and they know what they're doing. Brian, why didn't they call Shopify in 1940? I guess they weren't around then.
Yeah, I mean,
who was running the internet in 1940?
I think if you had called someone and said, build me a website in 1940, they may have committed you. And they may have called it a nut house back then.
I would want people to be committed to what I'm doing. I'd want them to be 100% behind it. And Shopify, folks, is going to be 100% behind you, giving you the old heave-ho, the old shove to the top every step of the way. They're behind millions of businesses around the world. 10% of all the e-commerce in the United States comes from Shopify, all the way from the big boys like Mattel to the to the little bitty fellas like IT Flatto, and they'll lead you by the hand and sometimes shoot you into the ropes every step of the way. So, Brian, I think it's only fair that the people out there that want to dream, that want to retire as successfully as these old-time wrestling promoters, turn the dreams into reality and money, and get a $1 a month trial period. They're right there. That's it. I got to get one of those. Wait, see, I'll just knock down a belly dancer and take her little finger clackers. There you see. Yeah, mess with me there, Gladys. You got a little slap. Sign up for your $1 a month trial period and start selling today like an auctioneer at Shopify.com/JCE. Shopify.com/JCE. You'll be selling like you're going to the electric chair. Oh, God, please. Oh, God, no.
I don't think it'll be that.
No.
And you don't need to be an auctioneer either. And of course, they power our online store, ArcadianVanguard.com. Those great drive-through t-shirts powered by our friends at Shopify. You can find us in the shop app. They can do the same for you and your products. Jim, one more time, in a professional manner, what is that wonderful promo code?
Oh, God.
No, that's not it. No.
You gotta go right now. No matter what you do, go to Shopify.com/JCE. Oh, you just got to.